Hey everyone, Seth here. Today I wanted to talk about a deck that I've been playing for the EX02 format that I've been testing a lot with and that I think is definitely rogue playable again for the first time since EX01 actually, and that is Diaboromon. So let's get into it. First off, for the eggs, we are on 1 copy of BT2 Sunamon and 4 copies of BT5 Sunamon. This is the standard egg split. The DP boost isn't super great, but it's an unidentified type and it's a 5th egg. And the draw power on BT5 Sunamon is just better because you just need to be an unidentified type and swing to get it off. And it's a draw instead of just a DP boost. Next up, for the level 3s, we are on 4 copies of Caramon, 4 copies of Caramon, and 4 copies of Caramon. And you can see where the naming convention of this deck sort of becomes a problem. A lot of the times it's just going to be easier to tell your opponent the effect of it, like call it Searcher Caramon, Draw Caramon, and Buff Caramon. But they're pretty easy to understand. BT5 Caramon on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a Errata Sonata, which is the archetype's associated tamer, and 1 unidentified type Digimon to your hand, unidentified being the type that the entire Diaboromon line falls under, and also Bond of Bravery and Bond of Friendship if that ever comes up in your life, but it probably won't. The Draw Caramon, whenever you play a inherited effect, whenever you play a Digimon with the same name, draw a card. So a lot of the time you'll Digivolve into Diaboromon, make a token, draw a card. And then EX01 Caramon's inherited effect, during your turn it gets plus 1k for each Digimon with the same name. So your Diaboromon will get plus 1k for each token you have, usually. Now for the level 4s, we're on 4 copies of Memory Caramon, or Kurisarimon, 3 copies of Rush Kurisarimon, 2 copies of Restand Kurisarimon, 1 Decoy Kurisarimon, and 1 Grumblemon. Now the level 4s are admittedly the part of the deck that has the most awkward optimization. For memory is, I think, pretty set in stone. The memory gain Kurisari is probably the best one. Whenever you go into your Diaboromons and you start making the tokens, it's not uncommon to effectively not end your turn, or in some case even plus off of the making of Diaboromon tokens with this deck. The Rush Kurisarimon is weird because the on Digivolve is very powerful. If you don't have an errata in play yet, make an Errata Sonata from your hand. And then it gives all of your Digimon with the same name Rush, so your Diaboromon tokens will usually have Rush. But it doesn't come up as often as you'd like. A lot of the times you're Digivolving and ending on Diaboromon if you don't have the Memory Kurisari in play. Restand Kurisarimon is something I've been messing with as tech from the new set. So once per turn, when a Digimon with the same name is deleted, restand it. So a lot of the times you'll swing with one of your main Diaboromons. It'll live the security check. You throw a token at security or sacrifice it to an effect, and then restand your main stack. And it's a 4-cost hard play, which is really nice. Decoy Kurisarimon is one that was much more popular back in BT6 EX1 format, but nowadays most removal in the game is either by walking over your Digimon or DP reducing it or stunning it. So against yellow hybrid, blue hybrid, and green, you're not really doing a lot of decoy. Decoy is a little bit of a weak mechanic, but against red, purple, and black decks, it can be really nice to have the extra protection. And then the one of Grumblemon, because hybrid for game is always going to be a thing in this game forever until the end of time. I'm not a fan of the hybrid sets. Then we move on to the level 5s. We have 4 copies of EX1 Infirmon, 2 copies of BT2 Infirmon, 1 copy of BT5 Infirmon, and 1 copy of Chimeramon. So EX1 Infirmon is easily the strongest of the 3. During your opponent's turn, once per turn, if they digivolve into a level 5 or higher, you gain a memory. So when your opponent goes into their level 6s, their level 7s, you're probably going to end their turn on that. Or even just going against hybrids, like they have to do a lot more specific math because they can't just like go into Jet Sylphimon and end on 0. They'll have to go into end it on your turn. And then inherited effect, Digimon of yours with the same name get plus 2k, so all of your Diaboromons will be plus 2k, except for the one with this in the stack. So your tokens will be 5ks. The cost reducer Infamon unfortunately doesn't have a inherited effect, but it reduces the Digivolve cost of your Diaboromons by 1, which means that you can go into a Diaboromon for 2, and a lot of the time you're just normally you're ending your turn on like blocker Diaboromon a lot of the time. This allows you to go into a Diaboromon and not necessarily end your turn with that Digivolve. Warp Infamon is easily the worst one out of the 3. The Warp Digivolve almost never comes up. The inherited effect isn't that great, but it's another name for a level 5 that we can find off of our searcher. It's another type for errata in the trash. And I don't have a second Chimeramon. But I think in a perfect world, we would probably be on like 4, 3, and then no BT5s. But, you know, it's user discretion. The one of Chimeramon is something I was messing with that I'm liking a lot. On Digivolve, you can jogress it off of 2 level 4s, or you can just do it for 4 onto a level 4. But on Digivolve, you can put a level 4 or lower Digimon from trash into the stack underneath it. So a lot of the time what'll happen is you'll Digivolve into like 2 Kurisarimons into this, and then you'll have like 2 Kurisarimon effects, 2 Karamon effects, and then you can grab either a 3rd Kurisarimon effect or a 3rd Karamon effect from your trash underneath it to get like a like an optimized or a preferred like stack setup. And it's something that I've been liking a lot. Next up, for the level 6s and the namesake of the deck, we're on 3 copies of Blocker Diaboromon, 2 copies of Token Diaboromon, and 1 copy of Promo Diaboromon. Now, this isn't the final ratio. I've actually got a second Promo Diaboromon in the mail, so it's ideally going to be 3, 1, and 2. But I just don't have it yet. I've been playtesting as though one of these was a security attack, though, and it's been working out great. And now that they are have been reprinted, they aren't like super expensive anymore. So Blocker Diaboromon is really good. It's the card that made the deck playable in the first place. Security effect, if you send this from security, you make a Diaboromon token at the end of combat. And then during your opponent's turn, all of your Digimon have blocker. Or not all your Digimon, all your Diaboromons, my bad. BT5, just on Digivolve, make a Diaboromon token, is a really solid effect. And it allows you to get your board set up really well, and for either fodder plays or just for extra name plays. And then Promo Diaboromon is honestly just a little bit broken. Security +1 for each other Diaboromon in play, or not even for each other, for each Diaboromon. It counts itself. That's the crazy part. It is not hard to have a security +3, 4, or even 5 Diaboromon in play. The only problem is it's an 11k, all of them are, but that's why we have our security boosting effects like Infamon and EX01 Karamon. And so that's our level 6 lineup, and it's not uncommon for this guy to just force your opponent to stay on the back foot for the rest of the game. Now for the level 7s, 2 copies of Armageddemon. So in my opinion, this is the best format for Armageddemon ever. You can sacrifice a Diaboromon to reduce its play cost by 12, so it's either a 3-cost play or a 3-cost Digivolve onto a Diaboromon. It stops your opponents on Digivolve effects for their level 7s, which are honestly the most relevant they've been since like BT5 maybe, with the existence of Crimson Mode, Blast Mode, Susanomon. It is a really, really strong ability to be able to turn off their Digivolves, because a lot of the time you can set up a really powerful board state with Diaboromon, clear most of their security, and then end on a Armageddemon, and the level 7 that would normally be their out to such a like being behind is no longer available to them. Plus it has Rush, so a lot of the time you can just crack a Diaboromon, play this, and swing for game. This is effectively our real hybrid for lethal, and I like it a lot. I wouldn't play more than 2. I feel like 3 clogs your hand, and a lot of the time there's certain decks you don't really need it against, but this is definitely the best it's been in the game so far, in my opinion. Now on to the tamers and options, which is where we start getting into the spice of the deck for the new format. 4 Errata Sonata is standard for the deck. Start of your turn, gain 1 memory if you have an unidentified engrave, and you can suspend it when you Digivolve into Diaboromon to make a token. It used to be like in EX01, if you had 2 of these in play, you were probably going to win. If you had 3 in play, you weren't going to lose. And it's still true now, you know. Being able to make free tokens in this deck is crazy. Their bodies, their blockers, their card draw, and their memory gaining. And for free, it's nuts. 2 copies of Alice McCoy. So this is the main tech from EX2. Once per turn, you can, when you Digivolve from a level 5 into a level 6, you can delete one of your Digimon to reduce the cost by 3. So a lot of the time, you'll like play a Searcher Caramon and it'll just sit there. But now you can turn it into a free Digivolve into a Diaboromon, or you can give up a token for it, or anything else, and just, again, with things like Memory Kurisarimon or Draw a Card Caramon, it's just so much value, and if you get it off of a free Digivolve, it's ridiculous the amount of like play extension that this card grants you. And then for our final tamer, we've got 1 Digimon Emperor. This is our sort of a game plan against yellow hybrid. Unfortunately, that's the one deck that does still completely like spit on this deck. You know, turning off your ability to keep tokens in play with cards like Rapidmon means that you really can't keep your board up for all of your same name effects. So what Digimon Emperor does is when your opponent raises a level 3 from raising, you gain 2 memory, which means that most of the time when they Digivolve into Rapidmon, that's going to be the end of their turn, which is a huge difference between suspending and giving minus DP versus suspending, giving minus DP, swinging with Rapidmon, and activating Cody to clear whatever didn't die to the Rapidmon effect. It turns their like +3 off of Rapidmon into like a +1. And whenever you delete a Digimon, which you don't want to do that often, but it still comes up, you draw a card. And then for the options, we are on 2 Catastrophe Cannon and 2 Parabolic Junk. So I was originally running a 3 Junk and 1 Ultimate Flare, but I don't actually like how Ultimate Flare has been performing in this format so far. It costs way too much. Your opponents are able to do way too much off of like 5 to 7 security. And also, the Destroy All Level 3's effect isn't really relevant right now. A lot of the time, your opponent isn't ending by like playing a level 3 to choke you. They're trying to end on like a really powerful option, a Tamer, or a really powerful Digivolve. And so with Catastrophe Cannon, you still Digivolve their main threat by 2. You make a Diaboromon token a lot of the time, and it costs way less. So like 4, you're not even necessarily ending your turn with it. Whereas you are literally always doing Ultimate Flare as the last thing in your turn. And then Parabolic Junk is sort of our consolation prize for the fact that we don't really get to play a memory boost in Diaboromon. For those of you that don't know, all of the Diaboromons except for promo are white. So you cannot grab your blockers or your token maker off of a black memory boost. And I didn't feel comfortable with the amount of targets we have for Pride memory boost. So this also synergizes with Armageddemon and Alice. You can play this on whatever you intend to sacrifice to those effects. Sacrifice it, gain 2 memory in addition to whatever bonuses you were getting. It effectively turns your Armageddemons into 1 costs or gains you memory when you digivolve with Alice a lot of the time. So that's the deck. I've been enjoying playtesting with it a lot. I, again, don't think this is like tier 1, but with how high above everything else Yellow Hybrid and Imperial Dramon sit, there's like a double S tier with those two, an S tier with nothing, and then an A tier with like Blue Hybrid. I think that it is safe to say that this is like rogue playable down with decks like Gallantmon, Beelzemon, and so on and so forth. And I'm really excited to keep playing it, and I'm hoping to take it to events and come back with some tournament results for it to back up my my deck building. Thanks for watching.